104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. A voice and a face that you're probably familiar with from his time with the Mike and Mike in the morning show. Man, I got to tell you, I'm excited because this guy is a huge fan of you. The book I know, Jason Romano for this. He's like, give me the book. I'm gonna get there. I was gonna get out of the way. He's like, Jason, as soon as you walk by,
yeah.
Goz is like, Jason, like a little
Whatever.
kid.
It's a reunion here, right?
Right. He's like, Jason, and I'm like, hey, Jason, and I got you to talk to Goz because Goz was in full fan mode. So I'm just gonna get out of your way, Goz.
What's up, Goz?
Hey, all right. The question was this, for those that may not know about it. Take us through the decision. You're working for Mike and Mike.
Yeah.
And I'm watching Mike and Mike at the Albany Connection, and I see that you're leaving Mike and Mike.
Yeah.
For those that may not know, why did you leave, and what are you working on now?
Yeah, I didn't just leave Mike and Mike. I left ESPN. 17
That's an
years.
easy decision.
Oh, very easy. It was like 5 seconds. Didn't even think about it. Time to leave. No, it was hard. It was 17 years of what I felt like was an amazing blessing to be at the worldwide leader, right? And you're working as a producer there and done so many cool things. I covered 9 Super Bowls. This is actually my 10th Super Bowl, but my first not being at ESPN. And it was just it was time, you know? It was one of those moments for me where I just felt like I needed to do something for a greater purpose. That was kind of my thinking. You know, I had done ESPN for so many years, and I liked my job. I loved working on Mike and Mike. It was so much fun. I saw Golick earlier today and gave him a high five and shook hands with him and just said hello, and it just brought me back to those fun times. But it was just time to kind of follow a call, I guess, if you will, on my life. It was to try and do more as far as my faith goes, to branch out a little bit more. I was writing a book and trying to figure out what that world looks like on being a first-time author. So it was just time, and now I'm hosting a podcast with Sports Spectrum, which is a sports media sort of ministry that we're doing, and it was just time. I just knew it. And it's funny, when you look back, you definitely know that it was the right time. When you're in it, you're still not sure. Am I making the right decision here? Talking to my wife, she thinks I'm crazy for wanting to leave the place that we moved to Connecticut for. But now you look back and you realize it was the right time.
Jason Romano with us, and of course, your ties to the Capital Region run deep. But this is what I find interesting. Like, I'm a diehard sports fan, and I have faith. I don't go to church every Sunday, but I believe in God.
Sure.
Why was it so important to you to find a place like Sports Spectrum where it's equal parts sports and faith?
Yeah, I actually tweeted this a couple days ago. There's so many athletes out there that have a faith, whether it's Christianity or Judaism. They take their faith very seriously, and I thought it would be kind of cool to just give them an opportunity to tell these stories. Because on the ESPNs of the world, let's be honest, ESPN's a wonderful platform, but they're not telling those stories. They're more, sports on the field. Occasionally they'll tell those sort of off-the-field stories, but they don't go real deep into a faith, and I get it why. It's understandable. It divides a lot of people, I think, in some ways. But it's very important to them. So we can't just ignore that. And for me, it was just an opportunity to say, hey, we have a platform. Here's an opportunity for you to talk about your faith, to talk about what means the most to you. And that's what's been really neat, is hearing the stories from these guys on how, not just inspirational stories of overcoming adversity and things like that, but how the Lord, in their minds, in their eyes, really worked and helped them through that. So that's kind of the reasoning why. I never want to force anything on anyone. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not one that says you must believe in this or else, or you have to do this or watch this. I just think it's giving these players an opportunity to talk about what is important to them away from football, because for many guys, it is very important.
Right, but you've worked in media before, and we see so many times the athlete may be unwilling to talk to somebody in general just about their sport they play. They don't want to get the billboard material out there.
Yeah.
Has it been difficult to get the answers and all these guys to actually say what they believe in front of almost a public forum?
It's interesting. I think originally some of these guys thought that it was just like a little podcast that might be heard by 20, 30 people. And so actually they're very open and honest about their faith and what they go through. Some of them go a little deeper than others, expectedly. We had James Brown on from CBS Sports, JB, and we spent an hour together, him and I, just like sitting right next to each other talking about matters of faith. And he went about as deep and as real as you can get as far as what that faith looks like in his life. And then we put it out there, and about 4,000 people downloaded the podcast, and he calls me, he's like, I thought this was some little thing you were doing for your little, your little channel. I said, JB, it's a podcast, and a lot of people heard your interview and wanted to tell other people. And I said, I have, a following on social media that we shared it to, and it got picked up. And he's like, no, that's really great. I just thought it was this little thing and didn't understand how big it would become. And I think these guys, for the most part, who are talking about their faith or inspiration or whatever the words you want to use, it's becoming more apparent that they want to share those stories. Again, not to convert people, but just to say, this is what happened in my life. This is what is important to me.
Jason Romano with us right now, and it's funny because I'm one of those guys. I'm sarcastic. I'm almost evil at points. I'll admit it. When a guy goes out and I want to thank God today, I'm one of those guys going, you really think God was worried about a fourth quarter touchdown? Like, to the point where, like, what was it, Stevie Johnson, the wide receiver for the Bills?
I remember.
Who was like, how could God do me like this?
Yes.
I almost found it refreshing, as stupid as it was, that here was a guy who, on a dark day, was like, where were you today? Like, how do you feel as a man of faith and a man of sports when they intersect like that after a game?
I cringe a little bit when people just say, I thank God. Like, I understand that, and that's sort of a cliche Christian type thing to say, but I want to hear if that is more, deeper than that, meaningful than that. You listen to Case Keenum after the Vikings won their amazing game against the Saints, and I asked him, where does this day rank for you among all the games and things that you've gone through in your life? And he said it's third behind the day I became a Christian and the day I got married to my wife. So that's a little more real and authentic than just saying, I just want to thank God for what happened. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, but I think it's more of are you just saying it because you have it trained in your mind, or does you actually have like a deeper seated faith in you? And it's hard for me to ever judge that, so I try not to because I don't know. But I get concerned a little bit when people start saying, God cares about why I do certain, things, or why I lost or why I won. He cares about people, is how I feel about it from what I read in the Bible that I believe in. Like, he talks about wanting to love and serve and care for people. So that's what he cares about. Win or lose, he doesn't care who wins a game,
right?
And, did he help the Eagles player catch a pass that the Patriots guy didn't? No, it's these guys performing on the field and breaks go their way. It's what happens after the game's over and how you sort of, take that matter of faith seriously, win or lose.
You have a new book out that just came out a few weeks ago, Live to Forgive, Moving Forward When Those We Love Hurt Us, and the foreword's written by Darryl Strawberry. How did that happen?
And how nuts is that, right? So I grew up in Ravenna, New York, outside of Albany. Big Mets fan, 1980s, 86 Mets are my team, and had his poster on my wall, had his jersey, kept stats. I was a stats nerd as a kid, had my notebook out, writing down Darryl Strawberry's games because we didn't have internet when we were kids. I met Darryl in 2009 at ESPN. He came and he did a day, what we call the car wash at ESPN, a day of interviews. And he was going through each interview, and I was walking him around. And Darryl was amazing. And we didn't talk. We wanted to talk. I wanted to talk about sports. I wanted to talk about the Mets. And we ended up talking about matters of faith, but we also ended up talking about addiction, about abuse, about his struggles, and about my dad. And my dad's an alcoholic and has struggled with alcohol and depression for years, brokenness, all that. My relationship with him was a mess for many, many years. And from that moment, talking to Darryl Strawberry, of all people, we connected on that. We didn't connect on the Mets or 86 or any of these great things that he did on the field. We connected because of what I shared with him about my dad. And so we stayed in touch for many years, and every time I would see him or text him, he would always say, how's your dad? And for many years, I couldn't give him a good answer. It was always, he's struggling, he's not doing so well. But that's how I connected with Darryl. And then when it was time to kind of put the forward together for the book last August, I was hoping somebody of the connections that I had from ESPN would be a part of that. And the first person I thought of after I reconnected with him was Darryl Strawberry. I said, how amazing would it be for Darryl to write the forward? And he connected, and we talked, and he said to me, Jason, whatever you need for the book, I'll help you out. Because I asked him originally for just an endorsement. And he says to me, I'll do anything for you, whatever you need for the book. I said, well, how about the forward? Am I crazy for asking you if you would write the forward to my book? He goes, I told you, whatever you want. I said, really? Awesome. And so that's how we got him to write the forward, and it was just incredible. I mean, it's Darryl Strawberry.
Right.
Come on now,
crazy.
Right? So it was pretty great.
Yeah, you're in your room. It's 86. Mets have just made your sports dreams come true.
Oh my gosh!
And then all of a sudden, here we are, and Darryl Strawberry's right in the forward for you.
It's incredible. I mean, I asked my family, asked my mom. This guy, I had his jerseys, his T-shirts. He was my sports hero. He was. So to have his name with my name on the first book that I ever wrote is pretty special. Live to Forgive, Jason Romano. You made the Cap region proud, my friend. Thanks, man.
And it was a bold decision. Is it at this point? You got the podcast.
Yep.
Where can we get it?
Yeah, Sports Spectrum Podcast. It's called. I'm interviewing athletes, musicians, media people on the intersection of sports and faith. That's it. Sometimes it's a lot of sports and a little faith. Sometimes it's a lot of faith and a little sports. It's on iTunes. It's on Google Play. Everywhere podcasts are found, and it's on sportspectrums.com page is where all the podcasts are too. And it's been neat. It's been a great blessing to be a part of. And for 20 years, guys, I was behind the scenes. I was producing you guys. And then all of a sudden I got this request to host a podcast. And so now I'm doing what you guys do. And it's been a lot of fun interviewing these athletes for sure. And that's what we're doing here at the Super Bowl in Minneapolis as well.
Any regrets?
No regrets at all.
Love it.
None.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I thought he was going to say being on the show, so that was
well, we didn't talk about the show.
Yeah, I mean that's
that's a whole nother conversation.
A given. He thought we just knew that. Jason, the book available on Amazon, everywhere else.
Amazon, everywhere books are found. Hoping to get back to Albany, especially in the spring and summer, and maybe do a signing and come to the studio with you guys again or something like that. We'll have some fun.
Doors always open to you.
You got it.
Thank you so much, Jason Romano, Sports Spectrum, Live to Forgive. And it seems like 7 other things we could talk about right now.
That's right.
Keep up the great work, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.